District 1 County Commissioner Nicole Wilson are her aides, Cami Ribiezo and Drew Dietzen. As well, representing the Orange County Zoning Division are Ted Kozak, Janelle Garrett, and myself, or Garnett and myself, sorry. We have Kate Rogers representing the Environmental Protection Division, and we have Hatem representing the Transportation Planning Division. Again, thank you all for coming out tonight. What we've got here, this is an opportunity to be heard, and we will be giving all those who would like to speak an opportunity to talk for up to 2 minutes per person. The purpose of this meeting is to present information about our zoning process and then talk about the proposal at 2198 Hempel Avenue, Gotha. The applicant, Nathan Milch, who represents the project, is available to provide a detailed response to any inquiries or questions you may have, and he will also speak after I present here. First, let me go on about the BZA process with a brief overview. If any of you are familiar with it, I apologize. Please bear with me. We've got to go through this. When an application is received by the zoning division, whether it's for a special exception or a variance, we go through a process that sometimes includes a community meeting, which is what we've got right here, where we present facts and ask for public input. This input and information is submitted, and staff prepares a report that is forwarded to the Board of Zoning Adjustment. They conduct a public hearing where they review the facts, including what took place at the community meeting, which is where we are right now. And they provide a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners. There are opportunities for public input, such as tonight. The residents have several opportunities for voicing their comments or concerns, as I said, beginning with tonight, as well as at the BZA meeting on July 6th. If for whatever reason you cannot attend the hearing, you will also have an opportunity to communicate with myself, which is the case planner. On the back of the notice you have received, or if one of your neighbors will copy it for you, there's no rules about distance, so anybody can reply to that notice that was received in the mail. There's a place where you can indicate your support or opposition to the request and briefly explain why. Any comments received either by mail, phone, or email are given to the members of the BZA for their information and consideration. But it is very important that no matter how you contact us, you must provide us with your name and address. Once the BZA adopts their recommendation, the next day is the start of a mandatory 15 calendar day appeal period. During this appeal period, anybody may file an appeal of the decision of the BZA. There is a cost involved to file, and if an appeal is filed, or if a member of the Board of County Commissioners has an issue with the request, a separate public hearing will be scheduled before the BCC, Board of County Commissioners, at a later date, where you will again have the same opportunity to provide input as with the Board of Zoning Adjustment meeting. If there's no appeal filed, and if the commissioners are satisfied with the recommendation of the BZA, then on July 25th, the Board of County Commissioners will vote on the recommendation that was put forward by the BZA to finalize this process. Again, the specifics, it is a special exception. It's located in Commission District Number 1. The subject property is located in A1 Citrus Rural District. The future land use is rural settlement, which is consistent with the zoning district, and certain uses such as religious institutions are permitted through the special exception process. And we do have a brief PowerPoint presentation here. As we said, the case is SE, Special Exception 2211-118. It will be very convenient if you're corresponding to put that in your title so we know which of the 20 cases on that date you're referring to. And again, the applicant is Nathan Milch, representing Temple on Hempel. Again, as we mentioned, it's A1 Citrus Rural Zoning District. It is in the Gotha Rural Settlement. It's on Hempel Road, Hempel Avenue. The tract is approximately 8.37 acres. And as we mentioned, it's located in District Number 1. The request before us is a special exception in that A1 zoning district to allow for the construction of an 800-seat, 45,000 square foot religious institution. Again, the application was submitted in September of 2022. It took us this long to get all the traffic studies and EPD reviews finalized before we could move it forward to this point. The community meeting notices were sent on May 30th. And that brings us to today, the community meeting date, June 12th. The BZA public hearing date is scheduled for July 6th, and the BCC scheduled, if it is a consent, will be July 25th. There's the location map. I'm sure everybody knows where it is. Fronts on Hempel, backs onto State Road 408. There is the zoning map. It is A1 with the exception of a single-family home PD directly across the street. And that is the aerial map, and we can come back to any one of these that we need to, including the site plan, which there are a couple of paper copies there, and I'm sure our applicant has even larger copies up there too, so everyone can look at that. And this is the landscaping plan. And again, we've got the first floor plan and the second floor plan. And these are the elevations in all 4 directions. Let me know if you want me to go back.
Yes, please. You're going very quickly.
And this is a photo of the site from Hempel Avenue facing west, approximately where the entrance would be. Again, we're dealing with an 8.37 vacant agricultural property. This said property is accessed from Hempel Avenue to the east and it abuts State Road 408 to the west. The proposal is an 800-seat, 45,000 square foot religious institution, which is permitted by special exception in the A1 zoning district. Parking requirements for an assembly place with 800 seats and 15 employees are 1 parking space per 3 fixed seats plus 1 space per employee, requiring 282 seats. They are providing 282 parking spaces. Their plan submitted shows a total of 312 parking spaces, which would include 12 handicap spaces, thus meeting the parking requirements per Orange County Code. They have stated their hours of operation will be 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. daily for religious worship, and they've stated there will be no school activities and no planned outdoor events. The Orange County Planning Division reviewed the application and stated that the church is consistent with our county policy with the future land use correlation with the zoning, where it's located in the Gotha rural settlement, one house, one dwelling unit per acre land use, and an A1 zoning designation, and those two are consistent with each other. Orange County Environmental Protection Division has reviewed and approved a conservation area determination on the property, which is basically like a wetland study. The Transportation Planning Division has provided comments that they did a trip generation analysis that was conducted for the temple based on the weekday operations. The temple has a total of 22 trips with anticipated 10 entering and 12 exiting vehicles, and that they will receive few visitors during weekdays, but on Saturday, the temple will receive the most visitors arriving in the evening. The analysis considered both scenarios to determine its impact on the surrounding roadways and intersections on a typical Saturday and during weekdays. The intersection operational analysis concluded that the intersection of Hempel Avenue and Lake Hugh project driveway is shown to operate within sufficient capacity in all the scenarios that were evaluated. And in addition, a micro-simulation analysis was performed on the driveway for build-out scenarios, and it showed low delay and vehicle queues of no greater than 2 vehicles along the major approaches. No deficiencies were identified. As a result, the projected traffic impact, the need for an exclusive left turn and right turn lanes at the project driveway was evaluated, but it was not warranted, but a left turn lane was recommended for effective traffic operations at the projected driveway, which would be built by the applicant. With that, I can turn it over to the applicant.
Yeah. I'm not Nathan Milch, but he is right here. Nathan is the project planner with Kimley Horn and Associates. My name is Jim Willard. I'm an attorney. I'm supposed to do these kind of things, and if you're like me, everything I've learned about Hindu temples, I've learned in the last 1 year. So I can't say that I knew much about their operation or how many trips they generate, how many people they have, how often their services are held. But I was a little surprised to find out that the temple primarily operates 5 major festivals a year, at which time it's anticipated that the parking lot would be full. Other than that, their weekly services are on Saturdays, and people will arrive middle to late afternoon and depart by 8 o'clock. Therefore, when the traffic study was examined, the peak hour for operation of the church on a weekly basis is really Saturday evenings. And so the exiting of the congregation from the temple on Saturdays would generate a remarkably low number of trips, only about 22 trips, not expanding beyond level of service A or B on Hempel Avenue, but at the request of the county primarily, we, even though not warranted, the applicant is willing to put in a left-hand turn lane so that cars going north on Hempel can make a left into the project without stopping traffic in either direction. So that left-hand turn lane is a commitment by the applicant. Traffic being a primary consideration, I want to at least throw that out. Bobby Patel is here with a number of representatives from the church. This would be the temple, I should say. This is a relocation of an existing temple on Oak Ridge Drive that they've had for over 50 years. Most of their congregation and most of their members are in the West Orange County area. This would be a slightly larger, not much, but a far more modern and well-designed interior to accommodate their activities and more convenient to the members that are in the West Orange County area. So if you saw the elevations, it's relatively, it's 2 stories. It's set back over 500 feet from Hempel. There's some photos over there of the entry features and gate, and the building is virtually out of sight, frankly. It's so far away from Hempel. And there's some extensive landscaping proposed within the parking lot. There are trees on the site, primarily on the perimeter to the north and to the south. As you know, the site backs up to the Royal Landscape Nursery to the south. There's an area. Can we throw up that site plan again for a second? The way the stormwater functions on the site right now, there's this low area to the southwest that is currently being used by the landscape nursery. That'll be vacated. There's a large stormwater pond identified in this corner, and then landscaping throughout the parking lot. But you can see how the building is set back toward the east-west, so it's on the very rear of the property. And this is where the left-hand turn will be at the main entrance here on Hempel. There will be some trees removed approximately in the center of the property. Some trees on the perimeter to the north and south will be saved as much as possible, as well as some in this corner. Other than that, new landscaping will be probably well in excess of what code requires. There's a couple photographs over there to give you an idea of what the landscaping would look like once the temple is built. So we have a number of members of the temple and engineers and architects available to answer specific questions about it. But the best thing is probably just let you all, how do you want to organize the questions and answers? And then we'll try to respond to any questions you all have about the project.
Does Mr. Milch have anything to add, or have we covered anything?
I think that covers it.
Yeah, we'll get into details of whether it's stormwater management or construction as questions arise.
Okay. Yeah, then we can start with whoever gets their hand up first with a maximum of 2 minutes each.
Can we go back to the map with the trees on it, please? Or the aerial? I hope you can.
That's the closest we got to an aerial here.
Can you go closer? Can you zoom in?
Does anybody know how to zoom in on a PowerPoint? I don't think I ever have.
Okay. Hi, my name is Teresa Schwartzman-Myers. I sit on the board of the Gotha Rural Settlement Association, as well as the board of Yearling Gardens. And my biggest concerns are for stormwater mitigation. As you well know, Orange County has done 2 studies for Gotha, one in 2018 after the hurricanes, and one in 2009. And we are in what is called a percolation closed basin. We are already flooding on Lake Fisher, Lake Nally, Lake Mill, Lake Gotha. All the graveyards along Morton Jones are being flooded from Turnpike water off of the Turnpike. 3 of our neighbors' waters that surround us, 3 of our neighbors' houses are in the water around Lake Nally currently. This will add more water. It's totally out of scale for the historic Gotha rural settlement. We got 45,000 square foot plus almost 300 plus parking spaces. That water has to go down, it percolates, and then it rises up into the basin. And those studies you can find at the Orange County EPD that tell us do not build these large, high-density projects in Gotha because it actually adds to our flooding issues. So that is our first big issue. The second big issue is the only thing mitigating the water on this property are the big trees. And what's holding the line on Hempel right now are the remaining trees that exist along Yearling Gardens, Camp Ithiel. Those trees are giant green engineering machines. They suck up one 42-inch oak can handle 48,000 gallons of water a year that they absorb and they put back up in the atmosphere. So by taking out any of the remainder trees, we're going to be adding to that problem. So that is our biggest issue is water, water, water. We're already flooded in Gotha, and this will be adding to that problem. Not to mention traffic. I'm not sure I can buy it would only be 42 trips when you have 312 parking spaces. That's just not even logical. So I don't know if you all are aware of the flooding issues in Gotha, but you should be. And also the bridge, the 4 bridges through Gotha. We have 3 turnpike bridges, and you have this bridge. They're going to be lengthened. The turnpike bridges are going to be expanded from 8 lanes to 12. So we have more water coming in. The underlayment pipes are already laid at the bridge on Hempel. And we have pictures that show that. So we have more water coming in, not just from your property, but from the turnpike and from the county bridges and on Morton Jones and Hempel. So how are you going to handle the water? Cement doesn't do it, guys. We know that. It doesn't work. The non-permeable surface on the roof, the 45,000 square foot roof, and that parking lot are going to dump that water straight down into the basin, and it's going to rise up in the lowest level. We know that. We have 2 studies that tell you that's what it does, one from 2018, one from 2009. Are you aware of those studies, you engineers? Thank you.
You want to come on up?
Look, I don't need to unless you guys need me to. Thank you. My name's Scott Richmond. I live in Gotha. Is our BZA District 1 representative here?
No.
All right, disappointing. So a couple things. So first, for the county, please increase your radius of notice. I don't know who you sent this notice to. I live in Braemar, directly across the street. I did not receive a notice. Yeah, I mean, this is kind of nuts. So guys, and I brought this to the county's attention before, when you are doing a project of this scale in Gotha, you need to notify all of Gotha because all of Gotha is impacted by this. All of Gotha uses Hempel. And you should have for sure notified all of Braemar. There's only one entrance in and out of Braemar. That's the one directly across the street from this project. And yet you didn't even notify everybody in that community. So please, you still have a chance before the community meeting, before the BZA meeting, to increase your radius of notification and notify everybody. I have a couple questions, and one of them is how many members of this church live in Gotha? Because one of the criteria that's going to be examined by the BZA, hopefully, and the county and zoning department when they decide whether to do this, is whether it serves the local community, the rural settlement of Gotha. So of these 800 members that are going to be sitting in there, how many of them live in Gotha? Do you all know the answer to that?
Yeah, we have 3. I'm a Gotha resident.
So 3 people out of 800?
1, 2, and...
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the question, right? And this is something that that we need to know as a community and that the county needs to know, which is how many people in Gotha is this going to serve, given the impact? And then I'm also curious about, and I would like the county to research this or our commissioner's office, how does this project compare to to other projects in Gotha. We have 3 other churches in Gotha. What are their sizes compared to this 45,000 square foot proposed project? I'm guessing that if you added up all 3 churches in Gotha, this is probably triple that size or more. Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody could dispute it right now. You'd have to do the math, but even just looking at it, it's probably at least triple. And then what about any other buildings in Gotha? Do we even have any other buildings in Gotha that are a third the size of this building?
You're at your 2 minutes.
I'm guessing not. Okay, so these are the things that I want the county to look at and to consider.
You can have my.
And our BZA representative, should that person decide to get
He
involved.
just said you can have his 22 minutes.
Okay, you can have 1 more minute if
You
you
can have
want
my
to take
2
it.
minutes.
Oh,
We got one more.
these are just the things, these are the questions that I have that I want the county to consider and that I want our district commissioner's office to consider. I too am concerned about the environmental impacts and the flooding. I live on Lake Fisher. Lake Fisher rose while I was living there by 12 feet. I have a dock, it went underwater. It was underwater for more years than it's been out of the water because we can't control this. So that's an ongoing problem. The county's aware of it. Most of Orange County is aware of it. But these are the things. No offense to anybody here. I know you guys want to find a home for your church, and I think that's great. But the Gotha Rural Settlement, as the name implies, is really not a great place for a 45,000 square foot mega church that doesn't serve the Gotha community. So, that's it.
I thought you were next.
No,
Anybody else?
Okay.
I don't need the microphone.
So please let us hear you. That would be
Oh,
good.
God, that's a first.
It's being recorded, so this will be on.
So, my name is Doreen Hargraves. I live in Oakwood, Windermere. I also sit on the board for the Gotha Community Association. And what we look for when businesses and individuals want to come in and change our footprint, how does it benefit the rural settlement and the individuals that are residing here? And a 45,000 square foot building is not our footprint.
Yep.
We're a rural settlement. You know, we have cemeteries that are volunteers come in and take care of them. And more traffic on Hempel does not help anything. I live in Oaks of Windermere and my home floods. I am 4 feet from water during a rainstorm. You have no idea what it's like when there's a hurricane.
Yep.
And we can't pump our water anywhere. There's nowhere for the water to go. So I really understand you wanting to have a new home for your church family. But I just don't feel that the traffic and a 2-story building, 300 parking spaces is representative of what Gotha is.
So I have a good question.
So the question I have is, we have a lot of parking spaces, we have a lot of people that can go in the building, but what we're hearing is that it's only about 5 times a year that we get this kind of traffic, right? Maybe on a Saturday, once a week?
No, less, it's,
Every
the
Saturday.
county requires you to design the parking for the maximum utilization. That's the 5 festivals a year,
Okay,
5
fine.
days a year. The regular traffic would be less than, on a weekly basis, less than half of the parking lot.
So a couple questions. Number one is that I'm bi-coastal, so I'm up in Northern California. We have a lot of Hindu up in Northern California, and normally they're praying at least 2 to 3 times a day, coming and going through the buildings. Beautiful buildings too, by the way, I like them. But the 4 to 8 only, it seems a little odd when most Hindu churches have multiple sessions, people coming throughout the day. So if it's a 4 to 8, great. If it's not, normally what I'm used to is that it's, kind of open from, 8 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night, kind of people come and go throughout the day. Number 2, it seems like we might be building a parking lot and a building based on extremes. So is there an option of downsizing? Is there an option of a smaller footprint parking lot, a smaller footprint building, and when you have these big festivals, maybe there's some sort of, outdoor tent or something, I don't know, just brainstorming that. I kind of like the idea of a church right there, right? It seems nice, tranquil, it's pretty. It's better than a plumbing distribution place, I guess, right? Sooner or later, something's gonna happen there. But if there's,
It's zoned A1,
A1?
cultural 1.
well, we might go through this again with other places, but either way, so, is there a way to downsize it, right? Is there a way to make it a little bit smaller building, smaller parking? I live, we're over here where Scott is, I actually see my house on the map here in Braemar too, and we've been having nightmares with water too. So we've done a lot of traffic analysis here. Has anybody done a drainage analysis
Yes.
on the impact?
2 studies were done by Orange County, one in 2018, one in 2009. That's it.
Oh, with these guys. That's what I'm saying. Have they done their own drainage analysis? Have they done
They
anything?
can't. They said they've already read the stuff that was being done.
Gotcha, okay.
I'll speak to that when you're done, sir.
Gotcha. Anyway, so just, thinking out loud. Number two, if, God forbid, this, something is developed there, our light's gonna be on, till 10 o'clock at night, till midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning. The aesthetics of the area, we wanna keep it kind of nice and rural and dark and everything too, so. As far as the traffic, boy, I'll tell you, I live right across the street too, and I think a left turn lane would make it even harder for us to get out of Braemar, to now have to cross a couple lanes to get, to take a left to go down to Yellow Dog for a sandwich, which is why we all live in Gotha, obviously, at this point. So anyway, I think the traffic's a little suspect on that, because I've noticed just in the last few years, traffic's getting a lot more too, so. Anyway, didn't want to ramble on, but just a couple comments there.
Thank you. And then your next.
Hi, I'm Paul DeHart. I live at 2225 Lake Nally. I just wanted you guys to know the level of resistance you're going to get to this.
You have no
Because
idea.
our community, Lake Nally Homeowners Association, is right next to Braemar, so we're almost across the street as well. I can't imagine Braemar likes this, obviously, as they've already expressed. Our neighborhood does not like it, and our community just doesn't need it. There's other places this can go. You already have a location not too far away. I would recommend revisiting, remodeling that, upgrading it, whatever you need to do there. We have water issues. Hempel is a busy, sort of crazy road already. This is the last thing it needs. And again, there are several of us who have appeared at every one of these attempts of anyone in our community trying to build something and go beyond one house per 1 acre. And we'll be there July 6th doing the same thing. So I just want you to know, this is not something any of us are going to embrace, and I honestly don't think any answers to these questions is really going to help or make a difference there. So, just letting you know.
Gentleman in blue there.
So I came 10 minutes late, so maybe you already answered my question. It was basically about the zoning. I think it's zoned right now residential 1 unit per acre, and future land use is also 1 unit per acre.
Agricultural 1.
Oh, but it's 1 unit per acre. I mean, that's sort of the main point. So you can build 8 homes there, right? I mean, just straight zoning. Nobody could prevent you from doing this. And I think nobody in the community would have an issue with this. This just seems to be something, we have to change future land use zoning to build the temple, which is probably not, I don't think it's anything that at least, I'm also in the Gotha Rural Settlement Association, what nobody in the association really supports. So I'm not sure how the process, I think the process isn't easy to get future land use change anyway, so that's a pretty heavy lift, but it doesn't seem like something that would just easily fit into the future land.
Didn't have to stop you for time here, thank you. Anyone else?
This will be brief. I live in Saddlebrook. My name is Steve Cotton. I'm probably a quarter mile from where this is going to be. I've got a question. The gentleman opened up by saying that this building is going to be virtually out of sight. I kind of question that. I know your typical church has got a steeple. I'm looking at the images here. I'm not that familiar with the Hindu faith, but are those similar to steeples? And if so, how tall are they? The building is 2 stories tall, but approximately how tall are they?
The building, the ceiling height is 30 feet, and then the highest point of one of the spires ends up going to 42 feet, I believe.
Got it. So they're about 12 feet tall, the spires?
43.4.
43 feet from ground elevation.
Got it.
They're built on the first floor and go up 10 feet above the second floor.
Okay, and the plan is to have trees around the perimeter?
The top right photo over there is the rendering that we had done, and that's the view from Hempel Avenue of the, yeah, so on the bottom of there, you can see that's what the temple looks like, and then above that on the top right, that's the view from Hempel Avenue, which with all the landscaping and trees, you can barely see the temple. Which
The
was
upper right hand is from vehicle level on Hempel Avenue, looking down the main entrance to the west where the...
So the 23 Oaks in that picture, how many are going to stay on property?
Again, we don't have a precise site plan, and we have gone out and looked at the trees and counted the trees, and we're going to try to retain as many as we can and still build the church, still build the parking lot.
What we can do everybody's questions now. I assume this gentleman has a steel trap memory. He will respond to every single one of the questions at the end here.
Steel trap and writing it down.
Will the church use the facilities for any educational purposes? Will there be a school?
Do you want me to reprise? In the cover, unless something is going to be changed, which will require a big change, the cover letter was submitted to us that there'll be no educational facilities. They do show classrooms, which I assume, I'm breaking my own rule in talking here. I assume that means it'll just be during the actual services, but it's not any kind of school open to the public unless they change
Anything
it.
we should know about the lighting in the evening? I know down the road, there's a large Mormon temple. They have a large steeple with a bright light shining on it. Anything we need to know about that?
We do not plan any extravagant lighting at night. Landscape lighting and then normal security lighting, but no, nothing.
All right.
Nothing's,
I'll break the
nothing
rule
special.
again here, but yeah, they've turned in a photometrics plan, which I'm not an expert on reading it, but I know we slap a condition, I'll cut and paste it from the last staff report, that any lighting has to be downlit and at 0 at the property lines. Pretty much.
Please repeat that.
The standard condition on all religious facilities that the lighting has to be downlit and that it will have to reach 0 at the property lines, the foot candles. And that's the maximum of my knowledge of photometrics plan.
Thank you, that's all I have.
I have a question.
Just keep passing it around.
Yeah, I mean, lots of times religious organizations are wonderful neighbors. They're quiet, they're not everyday traffic. That's all the good things. But this reminds me of a project a few years back. There was a group that wanted to buy another big swath of land in Gotha and build a very large building, large parking lot. And their thinking is that they could also rent out their building to, for educational purposes and conventional type things. So I don't know if this was like a future use. I mean, it just seems very large for the amount of traffic that you're saying this is.
There's a basketball court
going
showing
to.
on that thing.
Yeah, so I mean, but, a lot of churches have those, but is it going to be facilities that are rented out and, that are used not just by this religious church?
Guys, that's not the case. It's solely for.
And if I could add one more thing, the water, I live on Lake Olivia, and we went through a nightmare when Gotha was flooding, and we had all kinds of Turnpike drainage ditch water pumped into our lake. And, so that is a huge concern. I've been here 38 years. There was a time when there wasn't all this flooding, and the building we're sitting in right now was not supposed to be in Gotha. It was supposed to be Metro West Middle School. But of course, the city can get a lot more tax money when they have commercial buildings and high-density housing.
The county.
Yeah, it's the city, Metro West. So they took their city school and put it in Gotha. Gotha's been asked to absorb a lot over the years. So, for a small rural community. So my main concern is, I kind of, the churches on Gotha don't cause that much problem. They're quiet, services are once a week and blah, blah, blah. But this seems more than just a once a week religious service thing for such a small community. Anyway, that's it.
Hi, I'm Linda Walsh, and I live on Westover Roberts Road. I've been here for 44 years. And I don't understand Monday through Friday, what is the type of traffic and what is the use of that building? That's a huge building to only use it one night a week. What's happening Monday through Friday?
We'll respond to that momentarily, Father.
Anybody else, or do we want to go to answers here?
Hi, Jennifer Elzera. I too
We'll
live in
respond to
Braemar.
that when we get the mic back, and we'll try to respond to all the questions.
So just a couple of things that I wanted to bring to your attention. So a lot of students in Saddlebrook walk, ride bikes to this school and use Hempel through Braemar as their main thoroughfare. That crosswalk was just established there at the entrance of Braemar like within the last year. It is perilous at times, and one of those times is in your key traffic time between 4 and 8 p.m. Those students get out of school at 4 p.m. and are typically crossing that area at 4:30. Also, Braemar petitioned Orange County Public Schools to get a bus because Hempel is already so difficult to traverse. They deemed it impossible for elementary students to make it from our neighborhood to the school safely. And so that's how we were able to get an exemption to get the school bus. So keeping those things in mind, I think that the additional traffic is not conducive to the rural settlement. But additionally, I wanted to ask about the traffic survey and exactly what expanse it was looked at, because just south of where we are located is Yellow Dog Eats, and then just south of there is the infamous three-way intersection. And during your key hours, it can get backed up for over 30 minutes. So while maybe, and I really call into question the number, the car count that you were giving, while maybe that is true right at that intersection for a very brief moment in time, not 2 miles away, there's 30 minutes of traffic at 6 p.m. backed up on the regular. So I don't really know that you're addressing that. And then also, what does that do at the really dangerous intersection of Old Winter Garden and Hempel, where we have witnessed several accidents as of late since the 7-Eleven went in on the corner there. So those are just some things that I would like addressed.
The other thing that comes up is, has anyone addressed the fact with the new office building that's going in on Old Winter Garden that does exit off onto Hempel, what that's going to do to traffic? The size of that building, the nature of that building. So that is, I forget the square footage, do you remember?
No.
But it's a office complex that's going in, I believe mostly medical, but it does. Three-story, and it does exit off of onto Hempel. So you've already got traffic issues on Old Winter Garden and Hempel from the gas station and impatient drivers. Now you're going to put an office building in that comes onto Hempel, and now you're looking to add another. So you have a surprised look on your face, but when we're doing traffic studies, that office building would have had to go through an approval process, a traffic study, and everything else like we're doing for the church. So
Where's the office building you're?
Right next to the 7.
right next to the 7-Eleven.
They just cleared the lot.
Mobile gas station.
On Old Winter
Old
Garden.
Winter Garden, right next to the 7-Eleven. But the concern I have is if it was only on Old Winter Garden, I would have less of a concern, because then that would be the traffic pattern. But it's got a back alley. They did a easement type thing, and it's got a back driveway that comes onto Hempel. So you know that it's going to increase the traffic on Hempel to get into there, so people aren't going onto Old Winter Garden. Thank you.
The 7-Eleven's already a death trap already. It causes wrecks already.
My name is John Elzier. I live in Braemar as well. I think everybody's raised a lot of good points about the flooding, which I think this is going to increase those issues. We already have traffic issues, traffic flow issues, and that's only going to increase that as well. I think as Scott pointed out, I don't know what the exact population is in Gotha, but I looked it up online and came up with 1,900 residents. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but 3 members of the community out of 1,900 is not serving the local community. And I guess I would also question if you're putting in an 800-seat venue, that's just under 50% of the residents. Is that typical that you would approve zoning for expansion of or construction of a facility that is just under 50% of the community in that area? That just seems out of proportion to me. Another question too that we haven't covered is, what's the projected construction time? Just curious if they were to build the facility, what would that process be? How long would that take?
Anyone else, or are we ready for answers?
I got a question real quick. Here you go. Oak Ridge, you're in Oak Ridge right now, right? On Oak Ridge, how long has the building been there now? How long have you been on Oak Ridge?
30 years.
30 years. How big is that building right now in parking lot?
37,000 square feet.
37,000 square feet in parking lot? Holds how many cars?
But Lord, I think about 180.
169 cars.
169 cars. So we're actually building something even bigger now for here, which is going to
Space-wise.
obviously, yeah, space-wise, which is good. I think the main consensus in this room is that it just doesn't, such a mammoth building to have such itty-bitty cars, activity, and it just doesn't make sense, right? It just doesn't make sense to build this kind of building per square foot, 45,000 square feet for 20 cars a day, 22 cars. I think the nursery probably gets 50 to 100 cars a day. I just gotta believe it's gonna be a lot more than the 22 cars a day you're saying.
Let's try to explain it a little further. It's not 22 cars a day. The reference was, the way traffic studies are done, county can try to confirm this, you pick the busiest time, the peak hour. And the peak hour for the use of this property, the way that it has been documented in the past at other temples, is Saturdays from 7 to 8 p.m. because that's when the Saturday congregation is leaving. So the departure in that hour is the highest volume of cars. There will be cars throughout the day coming and going of far lesser amount. That peak hour was 22 trips departing, over that period of time.
How do you get 300 parking spaces filled with 22 trips in an hour? It just doesn't make any sense.
Ask something. Okay, so when do Muslims go to the mosque? Do you know?
Friday.
When?
Probably 11, I think 11 around that time.
No, it's between 1 and 3 p.m. Okay. Christians, when do they go to the church?
Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, Saturday night, Sunday morning, Sunday.
Everybody goes on Wednesdays and
Sunday morning, small
so
service.
Wednesday at what time?
In the evening.
In the evening.
But that's a small service for a Christian church.
Okay, so everybody knows that the mass service for Fridays, or for Muslims, it's on Fridays. For Christians, it's on Sundays. For Jews, it's Saturdays. And same thing for the Hindus, it's Saturdays. Any of you who is religious, go to the church or the mosque or the temple or the synagogue daily between 4 and 6 p.m. or 7 to 9 a.m. during the weekday. Okay, how many
have
go?
preschools, have other events there. I regularly visit a church daily when my kids were in preschool, every day.
That's
multiple
very good,
times
but
a day.
how many are like you?
Pretty much all suburban moms in this area.
Yeah.
Of the 1,900, I would say probably about 500.
Yeah.
And
Goes
so
with
the
that.
500 goes to the church every day between
They're
7
going
and
for
9
a preschool
or
or
4 to 6
school
p.m.
drop-off, yes, sir.
Okay.
This lady's been
What
waiting.
does that have to do with what you're talking about? Where does this 22 trips
So
come
those
in?
are mainly the employees, plus a couple of visitors. So
During
that's
the
what,
day. But what about this Saturday when you're filling 800 seats? How much
Okay.
traffic is that?
So
generating?
that's what brings me to the other things that to explain to you how do we do our traffic analysis. So that what we care about as the county, on the county roadways, is that the recurring congestion. That's something that happens every day at the same time. And everybody knows that. Either going to work 7 to 9 a.m. or coming back to home from 4 to 6 p.m. That is the peak hour of every day. And this is different from the peak hour of the generator. The generator could be single-family homes like you live in, office complex, medical building, anything. So that peak hour of generator. So the peak hour of the generator of this land use is Saturday, 7 to 8 p.m. We, as the county, we don't care about the weekends.
You should.
We care about the weekdays, the recurring congestion,
That's
the worst case
secret
scenario.
here, is that you don't count weekends.
1 second. So, because that's what is causing the problem every day on I-4, 408, all the arterials, State Road 50, all the roadways are congested, 7 to 9 a.m., 4 to 6 p.m. Weekends, very few traffic on the road. So even if there's any activity happening, we don't analyze that. But for your concern, we analyzed Saturdays during the peak hour of generator of this development. And we did a micro simulation analysis, which is replicating what's happening on the roadways at that time. So we collected data during the weekend, which we don't usually do, to know what is the traffic on Hempel during not 7 p.m. like during the day. What is the worst case scenario on Saturday for that road on Hempel? And that's what we did. And then we added
400 cars.
And then we added those 200 cars on the road, because during the worst case scenario, which is those events that's gonna happen 5 times a year, it was 120 cars in and 80 cars out. So those are 200 cars. That is the highest that we got from our analysis, which is based on something called ITE, the Institute of Transportation Engineers, which is our Bible to know. It's like they collect data all over the states, the 50 states, for each land use, to know how many trips are generated from this specific land use or development, and what is the worst case scenario, what is the worst hour of the day. So we don't analyze daily traffic, like 24 hours, because the traffic is spread out throughout the day, but there's peaks. So those peaks that we are interested in. So that's what we did. As I told you, we are not concerned about weekends, but we did it for this project. Weekdays, it's only 22 vehicles, 10 going in and 12 coming out. And those are mainly, or usually, employees plus couple of visitors. And so we did the analysis, and then we did micro simulation, which I said, like we overlay the site plan with the number of parking spaces and whatever is happening on the road, and you can see the cars on the road, and you see if there's any, based on the interaction of the vehicles and people making left and right, in and out, if this gonna create any queuing or backups or additional or like excessive delays at the project entrance. And we didn't see any of that on Hempel on the weekend. In the weekdays, yes, you might see problems on Hempel because it's just one lane. So even, like, I don't want to say, like if somebody crossing the road 2 miles ahead, it will back up all the cars. But that's why we asked for an exclusive left turn lane, so that anybody who wants to make a left, they have their own lane. They're not gonna affect the main line on Hempel. Plus, if you look at it, those 10 in and 12 out cars, we have another test to see whether it's considered significant or not. If it's significant, then we ask the developer to pay something towards widening the road. If it's failing and needs to be widened, then they pay it, which is part of their impact fee or their called prop share analysis. Another thing that you need to know is that we can't deny projects based on transportation. Even if the road is failing, we can't deny the project. And that's not us. This is from Congress, a long time ago. We used to be able to deny projects if the road is failing.
That's not true, sir. Because it's
You
the
can look at
impact
it.
on the community. You can deny a project based on the impact on the community.
You can look at drainage, you can look at anything else except transportation. Look
That
at
is
Senate
not
Bill
the BZA
360.
can
Yeah, he's
consider.
speaking from a traffic analysis point of
That's
view.
fine, but he's saying as a county representative that the project can't be denied based on transportation, and that's just simply not
So
true.
we, as transportation like staff.
Your
cannot-
staff can't deny.
We cannot deny.
Right,
But
but
it
the
can
county
be
can.
denied by the Board of County Commissioners.
Right.
Yeah, if they vote to deny it, then that's a different thing. But we, in terms of our analysis, if the roads are failing, we cannot say, no, you can't build this. We used to do that. We used to be able to do that, but now we can't.
Okay.
But your
We've
analysis
only
has
got the
failed.
room, we've
Okay.
technically only got the room for
Your
another 5
analysis
minutes
has
here.
already failed.
No.
Yes, it
No,
has.
there's no
Because
failure.
that 7-Eleven, everybody living in there will tell you is a death trap. If you had done any good analysis, you would have allowed entrance and exit onto Old Winter Garden Road and never allowed, when you turn on the turn light there to go south down Hempel, people immediately have to slam on the brakes or get in a 10-car pileup because some little idiot wants to turn into 7-Eleven right there. You got 3 inches of space and they're supposed to be able to suddenly stop and turn in. So
we
you
were
failed at that.
we are
You're failing
analyzing-
at the building next to it by letting it come out on Hempel. So your analysis has already failed.
We are analyzing the
Oh,
surrounding.
no, it's a congruent thing. It's like all alive together. You
And I'm
can't-
gonna make a live statement. I live 3 houses down from the 7-Eleven, okay? And the amount of traffic and the amount of congestion and the amount of craziness that have happened since then. Your studies may be proposed, they're days of weeks and cars and everything else, because that's kind of morphed. It's only gonna be used certain times, and now it's employees, so it's proposed. So the concern is the amount of traffic on Hempel has gotten crazy. My wife has fought for years to get the speed reduced. We've done traffic studies. We've had a person killed and landed in our front yard, okay, from traffic
We're talking about
and...
safety now, which is different from.
No,
what
I'm
we
talking
do.
about
So
increased
it's
traffic.
Speeds, crashes.
May I
are
finish?
different from-
I'm not talking about, I'm talking about the overall use and traffic, the amount of people, the construction people that go to get to neighborhoods, the amount of traffic that has changed over the 20 years that I've lived in that house is huge. And now we're talking about adding a whole nother institution that's gonna add to that.
Okay, so how many
It's
of
not reality.
you came through Hempel Avenue today?
What?
Okay, what is the time? We came here at 6 p.m. Was there any congestion?
Yes. You waste up. I came 30 minutes ahead because I knew if I didn't come 30 minutes ahead, I wouldn't get through the rush hour.
It's a stop sign, you have to stop. What should we do about that?
Okay,
It's a-
first of all,
Not add
Go somewhere
else. We have like 3 minutes left, okay?
There's been someone waiting really
And this
patient.
lady's been waiting, the most patient person in the room here. Let's give her a medal.
My name is Bonnie Higginbotham, and we live in Falcon Point. So yes, I want to make the comment that we didn't get any notice either. But also, I have a concern or a question regarding the property that's south of Falcon Point and north of the Turnpike, Route 408. What is that zone for, and who owns that property? Because they're worried about flooding. What's going to happen if that gets developed as well, in addition to this project?
I can't answer that one.
Yeah, I don't know where the neighborhoods are by name, being Falcon Point. I can just zoom in on the zoning map, and if you can tell me where you are, it probably...
It's behind the 7-Eleven.
That, I apologize.
That's-
Okay.
Right north,
The
north.
corner of Old Winter Garden Road and Hempel. The north.
Yeah, we
east corner of
can't,
Hempel.
I apologize, we can't really discuss what's going to be built
Yeah.
built elsewhere. We can certainly talk about this
Can you
project.
tell me what it's zoned for?
I'd have to have a further off zoning map than that. I don't have that in
That's
front of me right
outside
now.
the,
You could probably send them an email and you could probably help look that up.
I think it's a church group that owns
that's
that
easy to
property
look up.
too.
Yeah.
But again, unless it's zoned commercial,
No,
they'd have to go
county,
through
they
the
can help
same
look that up.
process if they wanted to build a church there. Did we have,
Because we gotta do the same thing.
yeah, they'd have to have a hearing just like
I'm
this.
sorry, let me try to get some answers out here real quick
Yeah, if
before
we
we
can,
run out of
we
time.
can get them.
So if you're trying to fit into the community, why the big gates? If you're trying to blend with us and you want to be part of us, why the big gates? It's like monstrous and locking us out.
All right, I'll put that to the list. The gate, we thought the gate was pretty attractive, and the entry feature was pretty attractive. We can certainly talk about architecture and, you know, what the community might like in terms of the gate. That's the design taken from another temple that we thought was pretty attractive. Okay, before we run out of time, hey, drainage. Everyone's concerned about drainage, I get it. Let me just say that the project will not export, 1 drop of water more than it takes in right now in its undeveloped stage.
Not possible.
You
That
have
is-
not read the
possible.
hydrology studies then that the county
Please.
did.
I've heard, this property was part of the county study, okay? It is required that post-development has to retain on site the exact amount of rainfall and stormwater drainage generated in a pre-development state. That pre-post requirement is standard, and it's been designed with the retention pond and the impervious surface, including the building, to take that into account. And the final engineering will reveal that it is not going to generate drainage off the site. Simple as that.
Yes, it will.
So that's our answer. You may not believe it, hire your engineer, talk to our engineer, go over the stormwater plans. The county's going to be,
You know
reviewing
there's a
it in
suit against the
detail.
county right now. Have you told your client this?
Alright.
Which will be heard next year. There's suits flying everywhere. The county's flooded us. My house was destroyed. The Turnpike has flooded us.
Okay.
And there's no way to mitigate the water you're talking about.
Okay, that's why the on-site ponds and the
not gonna stop
impervious
it.
surface.
Won't stop it.
You're in a percolation area, a water percolation area.
Yeah.
You gotta remember, you're talking to a group here, so, and I agree
No,
with
they
you,
don't
those
care
are the
either. They're
standards.
flooding us on
But
purpose.
everything around us has been built to that standard, and now we have flooding. So I know as an engineer or a lawyer, you say, hey, these are the standards and these work, but in reality, in real life, when you apply those theoretical standards, they didn't work in Gotha.
And we have constant
I
water
I
runoff.
can't go to the historical basis for the flooding that you're experiencing, whether it's due to roadways, lakes, pre-development conditions that were not adequately safeguarded. Current development requirements on this 8.3 acres is not going to generate off-site drainage.
Yeah.
That's all I can tell you.
Oh, boy.
Okay,
Wow.
again,
Ignorance.
again,
Wow.
Really
that's why we have civil engineers, that's why the county reviews the drainage plans. That is a requirement.
What
You
about the
clearly
illegal?
have not read the county's own engineering and hydrology study from 2018 and 2009. Their own engineers said, do not dump any more water into this pervious basin. That water goes down and it rises up into a closed basin.
I'm repeating myself.
Because you're not getting it, sir.
The pre-development drainage from this property cannot be increased. Okay, so whether it stays in its native state of dirt, or whether we put the buildings on it, that's what the retention ponds and the absorption into the groundwater is required. And we're not going to be generating post-development runoff. Okay, that's
Does the
a fact.
retention
Let me-
pond have
let
an
me-
overflow pipe or an
I'm sorry?
overflow, some sort of overflow design to it?
it's pretty much a closed basin. We have to retain it on site.
Yeah, I agree, pretty much. But I'm asking you, most retention ponds I've seen have an overflow in case of emergency, right? But, I mean, is it a 50-year?
Are you one of the engineers?
A 50-year pond or a 100-year pond or?
Okay, yeah, Orange County criteria is 100 years. Again, it's for a closed basin, which is what this is, so we're gonna have to design it to retain on-site maximum water, during a 24-hour storm, all that.
It's a
On-site,
100-year.
100-year storm. Okay, let me go to the traffic. Again, there was a lady that had a concern about Monday through Friday traffic. Very minimal use of the facility Monday through Friday. It is 45,000 square feet. It has gymnasium, it has meeting space, it has on-site classrooms for members of the congregation, not for schooling. And so there's a lot of space there. It's a large building, but it is not designed for 312 parking spaces on a daily basis. As I said at the beginning, Saturday is when they have their meetings, okay? They expect less than half of the parking lot to be filled on any given Saturday. They have 5 festivals a year, and we were required to design the parking to accommodate maximum utility during those 5 days a year. That's why it's 312 parking spaces.
Are those days of the year weekends or midweek?
Mostly on the weekend.
On the weekend.
Mostly on the weekend.
Festivals on weekends.
Do they all have fireworks?
That might be
Are
only
they
one
all with
festival, there might
fireworks
be in
I-
weekdays.
and music and things, because this is from your website, like one of the festivals that you had at Oak Ridge with fireworks, I believe?
That's on
Is that common?
once a year, it's a Diwali, that happens in November or October.
Oh.
It's
That's
a
when
new
we do
year
it.
of the
But then
Indian.
again, we always take permission for it, and that's when we have.
Thank you. Okay, so there are fireworks at this site?
It's with the permission.
With the permission.
That's the Hindu New Year.
Okay. Drainage, traffic. I get it that you're looking for something that will primarily, if not solely, benefit the people of Gotha.
That's the code.
That's the code. That's the code.
That's what a rural
That's the special
settlement.
exception condition.
No, okay.
The rural settlement.
Whether you're a rural settlement, or whether you're a municipality or a county, it's a large community. You know, you can still drive through Gotha, you can still go to businesses in Gotha, and a lot of those visitors come from outside of Gotha. I've lived in Windermere for almost 40 years. I know all about traffic, I know all about, people coming in from outside of Windermere. And, but the fact is, it's a religious institution. Churches get to go places. And whether it's a Catholic church, a Baptist church, a cathedral, they locate in areas and they attract membership and congregations from a wider area. So yes, it would be certainly attracting people from outside of Gotha, but I'm telling you, it's remarkable at how minimal the usage is compared to most other religious institutions and the off-peak hours in which it's used.
I don't, you said Gotha is a large community, that's not true.
We're a historic rural settlement, just like Windermere. We are a historic rural settlement, just like Windermere.
Windermere's incorporated, Windermere's a city.
All right, okay.
But,
If you can keep,
Okay.
we're going to wrap this up, so
The,
can you focus on answering the questions, please?
Well, drainage and traffic was 90% of it. No, we don't expect to have any lighting at night. The church is not going to be rented with permission, once a year with permission.
A place with a gymnasium, though, is usually rented. The gymnasium.
That's for our own kids.
Okay.
We don't want to rent it.
But it's not a school.
It's not a school, and it's only for 4 to 8 p.m. So this seems to be like a getaway spot as much as your place of worship.
Does it serve a dual duty as a community center to some extent for the community that belongs to the church?
That's what the other people wanted.
So let's have some clarification, the use of the building as such, right? So what we're trying to accomplish here is a facility where, the different age groups of children are accommodated between those classes, age groups, different age groups from 0 to 2 and 4 to 6, so up to, younger youths and adults also. So to accommodate for that, that's the use of the gymnasium. And yes, just to clarify, it is going to be only on Saturday. So the whole idea is the family comes in to use that church, the temple at Hempel. And the idea is the classrooms are based only for services based on religious education, not for typical classrooms that you're going to see for the school. So to accommodate that, the gymnasium is part for the overall development of them also when they're part of the church. So we don't intend to rent this facility outside. We want to make it so that our kids can enjoy both parts of it when they're there for Saturday evening.
Is the name Temple on Hempel, is that going to be the name of it? Don't be, this is an answer. I'm not a politician. I'm straight. I'm transparent. I'm asking a serious question. What is the name of the building?
So it's going to be a Hindu place of worship.
Not Temple on Hempel. That's not what we're going to be advertising.
No, it's going to be a Hindu place of worship. And,
I just don't know a lot about the Hindu religion.
It's simply the name that went on the application to the county.
And it just feels like I really have just started to look at your religion, just because of different friends. I just don't feel you fit the footprint of a 2-story building in Gotha. We're 2 square miles, we're 1,900 people. We were told the roundabout is gonna make traffic better. It doesn't, it's gridlock. It stops. We have a traffic problem. And it's the flooding, it's a little bit of the traffic. But this doesn't serve the goals of rural settlements. It's serving an outside community that's bringing everyone in. That's all.
Well, to answer your question on, the scale of the building, 2-story we're saying, but the majority of footprint, like a gymnasium, is only a 2-story building based on the height. And the ancillary spaces like classrooms are wrapped around it. So basically you have a central meeting space, foyer, and then the auditorium where people can congregate and have their services. And the gymnasium are basically, it's a 2-story structure if you take from ground to roof level. So the net footprint is being said for 45,000 square feet, but it's not, we're talking 45,000 totality of it. So the footprint is much smaller than 45,000 square feet.
Somebody had asked, would you consider a smaller building, or is that not feasible? Because you're already in 37,000 square feet now, but just so we all know, is there a compromise that could be reached or not?
I think they're taking notes, and hopefully they're taking all these comments into account too. I'm Ted Kozak with the Orange County Zoning, and we're going to wrap it up by me focusing in all the questions that I've heard all talked about today. So there were questions on the lighting, and you acknowledge the lighting. Of course, the county has conditions if so approved, but the question on the trees, which are pretty important and dear and near to my heart, and if we can go back to the aerial, wherever. So the trees along on the east side, and not just a promise of saving them, so a tree inventory will be key here before we get a final decision. But so that's something that I'm encouraging the tree inventory to be taking place. So that's one aspect. The smaller footprint, we've talked, there's been a lot of mention about that, and hopefully there's been taking notes here. The largeness of the building. Now, the height maximum is 35 feet, but with any religious institution, you may have an additional 10 feet. So the height is not the issue here, but they could not exceed 35 feet for the main principal structures. Any educational facilities, any kind of preschool, daycare, that is not part of the request. So if they can't bring that in later, otherwise they'd have to come right back and go through a whole new hearing process. The question that I received also online was if this can be answered, if it's just for a religious facility, why the need for the basketball court? You can answer that in a second. And the comment on, and it is true, this would be one of the largest buildings in Gotha, but there was also a question. I went to the back and did research, and I believe the building behind 7-Eleven was the question. If you're talking about east of that, that's in Ocoee, but it looks like it's deemed to be office. That's what I see, but our system, we can't see what's going on in Ocoee, so I'd give them a call. I think I have received all that. If you could wrap things up by, we've already in detail have provide comments on traffic and drainage, but if you can comment on the basketball courts and then wrap up your comments, because I know that the school people are wanting to go home too.
Can you speak to the use of the courts inside?
For the youth activity center where youth can gymnasium is part of, it's not a full-fledged gymnasium, but just a basketball court, sized to fit a small church and its uses. I think so. It's predominant accessible use that we see in designs of buildings of such nature.